Welcome to the channel for the first time viewers. Welcome back for my existing subscribers. I want to share with you my thoughts on the Corsair D4000 or the 4000D airflow. Yeah, the Corsair 4000D airflow. This review is going to be more for my average run-of-the-mill person, not anybody too techie. We're not really going to go too in depth because there are some cases that are built for those types of people. But for people like me, we're right around the middle. Can do a little bit of things once we watch some YouTube tutorials and really want something that makes an easy process, right? So first of all, what I love about this case is the look of it, right? You got slight yellow accents to match Corsair, right? On the top, there's a dust filter. So for those that are not that in tune with the PC case world, you definitely want that up top because it keeps dust from going inside of your fans. It keeps inside of your computer a lot cleaner. On the front, you also have a dust filter that's magnetic. So what I love about that is it reminds me of another case I had from Fantex where you can actually put the filter on and you snap on this piece, right? So I really like that. You have this grill that's really nice to look at up front. And on the right behind it, you have that actual piece to actually give you functionality from it and stop the air from getting in, or not the air, but the dust from getting in. The next thing I want to touch base on is how easy it is to build inside of this case. I came from a Fantex P400. I bought the front panel for that case, which was to me a good investment because I really liked that my temperatures were so much lower with a better airflow case, right? I had the fans before, but the front was closed, and long story short, when I got a case that was ventilated up front, my temperatures dropped by almost 10 degrees. Across the board. So my GPU stopped choking. My CPU, I had a decent cooler, but my highs were now like 80 instead of 85, 86, and the GPU, like I said, was going to 85 and it pretty much idles out around 70 now. With that said, building inside of this case is really easy. They have a couple spots for you to pass the cables through. So like in the bottom of the floor of the case, where it's really called the power supply shroud, but there's a hole in the bottom that you can pass your power cable through to go from the power supply to the graphics card, so you don't have to worry about having a whole mess of cables, especially one of the really long ones. That's probably the longest cable that you have, having to figure out where to route that, right? So the other thing I like is that they have that Corsair panel that kind of blocks a lot of the cables that go directly into your motherboard. So like the fan headers, you can plug the cables from your fans directly into the headers, and there's little slots up top for you to pass it through. Lastly, I will say that one of the hardest parts for me building inside of a PC case that really just either makes it or breaks it for me. Now I know what I like. I'm on my third case, so I started to know what I like, right? Plugging in the CPU power cables has been just the hardest thing to do because I have big hands. So plugging them in, like a lot of times I have to pull the cables through, like twist them backwards and then plug it into the actual socket. So with this case, I actually had space to actually pull the cable in comfortably and plug it in like normal. And I say like normal because all my other cases, it was like a fight. And then I had to do them in like pieces. And to top it off, I have a new motherboard that actually takes, I want to say it's a 4-pin? I think it's a 4-pin. No, it's an 8-pin plus a 4-pin. So it actually has just reserve power directly to the board. So you have to plug in another header, which was like, that's another side story in itself. But overall, man, this case is really easy to build in. So if you're a first time builder, it looks really sharp. I will say that when you look at it at a glance, the tinted side windows was a subtle tweak that I actually now prefer versus the regular tempered glass that was just completely see-through. Like my components, I have a little bit of red. I actually went stealth on this build. So the only lights are the fans. I don't have any RGB strips. So I actually like that it's that tinted finish. And for me, you only see the front fans, and that's you see the 3 of them. So it has pretty much a space for 3 120 millimeter fans in the front, and then 2 up top. So that's my setup. And then I have my AIO as an exhaust on the back of the case. So overall, like I said, great case, easy to build in. You can move the hard drive tray. The power supply is kind of a tight fit, but given that everything else is so easy to route, I give it a pass on that. And it's really quiet. So my Fantex P400 was really quiet. I'm starting to think that some of these cases, because I switched from what I switched from. I switched different power supplies. It wasn't that, like my NZXT H510. That one, for whatever reason, is just really loud. Like as soon as I turn it on, it's just loud, right? So I switched the power supply from another case to this one, to that NZXT. It was still loud. What I can say about this case is that it's really, really quiet. Like I could turn it on and I can actually hear my hard drive spin up more than I can my actual PC running, right? So I think that has something to do with it. I researched a little bit about what was causing my NZXT to make so much noise, and it's something about the vertical GPU mount. I have no idea, dude. All I know is it's the same AIO I have. I have a Corsair H60 on both, and that one is significantly louder. Even before I got the H60 and I had a different one in there, I would take my RTX 2080 from one build, slap it in my Ryzen build, which is the one that's in that NZXT, and it was still louder. So the fact that this thing sits on my desk is completely whisper silent, and at times the only thing you can hear coming from it is the actual hard disk drive that I had since I built my first PC, or since I bought the first PC, is amazing. And it has a total of 6 fans going at the same time. So I definitely recommend this case. Hopefully this is like my first case review, so hopefully it's somewhat helpful. I try to go from a realistic perspective because I've had issues with building in cases that were too small. Like the NZXT has some nice cable management, but it's really, really tight. As far as like when you go to put the motherboard and if you try to put AIO, it really gets tight in there. And that's the case that I had the hardest time with the CPU cable. And then I've had some decent experiences like the Fantex, where it has a lot of room. You pretty much can do whatever you need. But this one it felt a lot more premium, but it's the same price as all the other ones. It's $10 more than the NZXT, and it's right in line with the Fantex P400. So for me, it's a definite, you should get this. Yeah, hopefully this helps, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.